Hello and welcome to my channel. Here I review new movies and television shows and release a review every day from Monday to Friday. Today I want to talk about Living. It's a drama about an old man being given a prognosis of cancer and trying to find some meaning in the time he has left. Just a heads up, there are spoilers in this review, so if you want to avoid that sort of thing, this is your exit. Living was adapted from one of Akira Kurosawa's screenplays by Kazuo Ishiguro and is directed by Oliver Hermanus. As a film, it's part tragedy and part quest. We follow an old man named Mr. Williams. He works in an office building for the city and spends his day solemnly doing his work and avoiding contact with others. He follows the rules, does what he's told, and avoids confrontation. Nothing truly gets done there, but the people there are content to keep their heads down and just look busy. Mr. Williams leaves work early and goes to visit a doctor. The doctor hands him a cancer diagnosis, and then the way he sees the world starts to change. He meets new people who try and help him enjoy his life, but doesn't find meaning in revelry and excess. Then he reaches out to someone from his life who he admires, and she spends time with him enjoying the little things. Through talking with her, he finds renewed purpose and returns to his job to work on opening a park for children to play in. It's then that the film skips several months forward to his funeral, and we switch perspectives to those around him and learn how his final actions and death affected them. We see how torn up they are by his death, how inspired they are by his actions, and how it bothers them that he didn't share the news of his impending doom with them. The park he managed to build continues to serve and inspire the people of the community, and one of the young men from his office learns a valuable life lesson. But ultimately, Mr. Williams' actions are forgotten and the park is seen as an insignificant victory that didn't change much. The film is filled with meaning and introspection, and it's consistent and straightforward in how it presents the story. It never has the characters directly pontificate on the meaning of the scenery, but it's fairly obvious what they're going for. It introduces excitement in the form of well-acted, highly tense scenes. Bill Nighy, who plays Mr. Williams, does a fantastic job of portraying the grim and somber reality of his situation. He's somewhat boring as a person, but seems genuinely excited by all the things he learns about and experiences while hanging out. When Nighy is asked to give several monologues in the film, he approaches them with the appropriate gravity and is captivating the entire time he speaks. He sings his own songs and acts while doing it, and it adds a huge dimension to his character that was fantastic to experience. I love how the first time he sings, it's a sad song to remember the loved ones he's lost, and the last time he sings is a happy song to remember the times he played as a child in the park near his home. Like over the course of the film, he'd found peace. Williams meets and interacts with a few different people over the course of the film that are also worth talking about, such as Sutherland, Miss Harris, and Mr. Wakeling. Sutherland is a young man who Williams meets at a cafe and who takes him drinking and partying. Sutherland is played by Tom Burke, who does a fantastic job of expressing himself through subtle facial expressions. He tries to help Williams enjoy the last moments of his life, but ends up learning from Williams that there's more to life than just pleasure seeking. Next we have Margaret Harris. Amy Lou Wood plays her as charming and gossipy, but also innocent. She has big expressive eyes and does a good job of reacting to Nighy's monologue. She seems like she's swept up in his cyclone. Her character reminds Williams to enjoy the simple things in life and to always be looking forward to the future, and he takes her example and reminds her that even the simple things can inspire greater actions and to take pride in herself. Finally, we have Peter Wakeling, played by Alex Sharp. He's a young man that joins Mr. Williams' department at the beginning of the film. He starts off as bright-eyed and hopeful, but quickly becomes like everyone else in the office. Just another bureaucratic pencil pusher, too afraid to stick his head out and challenge the status quo. Even though Mr. Williams manages to temporarily inspire him, it isn't until he finally reads Mr. Williams' final letter to him that he truly changes. The relationships between Mr. Williams and his family and friends are interesting to watch play out, and despite the film being fairly straightforward, I never felt bored. The story has a lot of big moments, and it gets its point across in a clear and impactful way. The cast does a fantastic job of fleshing out their characters and playing out all the emotions they feel in a more subtle and realistic manner. There's no over-the-top crying or outbursts of rage, but instead there are subtle scenes of tear-stricken faces trying to stifle their emotions. Production-wise, the film is a little bit lacking in its design and implementation. The visuals are clear, with angles that solidly capture the emotions of the actors, but the way they present the story is confusing. They overuse time skips, and the entire last act of the film feels a little bit disjointed. Skipping from Williams rushing off to work on the project straight to his funeral felt jarring, and like they ran out of time. There are plenty of amazing scenes that capture the story in an engaging and memorable way, but the general feel of the movie is that it skips around a lot and it's hard to tell exactly how much they've skipped. Behind the visuals is a soundtrack made up of scored instrumentals. The songs ranged from sad piano pieces to excited jigs played on violins. There's definitely a classic, jazzy vibe to the sound, and it does well at eliciting the right emotions when called for. However, it feels a little over the top. There's constant music in the background of every shot, in every scene, and it starts to feel like the film is trying to force more emotions out of it than existed in the first place. The last act especially. It's almost 30 minutes of sad, introspective music, and it gets old fast. Overall, I found the film to be highly emotional, but not overly depressing. There was quite a bit of meaning to be found in Mr. Williams' final days, and the movie does a good job of being engaging and exciting. It doesn't go out of its way to be experimental, but it does well at drawing out a big emotional reaction, and it's consistent in tone and writing across the board. The cast and writing are fantastic, and while the visuals could have presented the story more clearly, and the soundtrack could have been more effective, it's still a good movie to sit down with and enjoy. 7 out of 10. That's it for me, bye bye.